getting on. Sat by the fireside, pondering on. Picture book, pictures of your mama, taken by your papa a long time ago. Picture book of people with each other to prove they love each other a long time ago. Picture book, picture book.
And so it begins. A new chapter gets started this afternoon. Acacia Courtney, look who's back. Jason Blewett alongside. So good to have you with us, everybody. Day one, opening day of the championship meet here at Gulfstream Park.
It really is so exciting to kick things off with the claiming crown, of course, as always. Of course, those claiming horses, the backbone of our sport, the heart and soul of our sport, if you will. So always fun to get to see them take the spotlight. And on opening day, we have 11 races coming up today. First post a little earlier than usual at 11:50, but we're just excited to get rolling. You can really feel the atmosphere just electric over here.
Oh, the calendar has been set in stone for many, many years. This is the primetime racing season throughout the country, and we're glad to have your company as we come back to Gulfstream Park off that 2-month break, give or take, over at Gulfstream West with some key changes. Not only 2 Pegasus races moving on to January of 19, we've got a brand new turf course. Now, Celebration Bermuda grass is what was put in throughout the spring and summer. 40 tons of sand. They ripped up everything, including the base, and boy, does it look great. And I'll tell you, it is celebration time.
It absolutely is, and you can see there all the good things about it. It scores very, very high for its durability. It's very safe as well. Just a total renovation of the turf course. They did the inside and then the outside. So you see it looks in pristine condition, all set for all of the turf racing that we'll be doing this championship meet.
Oh, green and super lush
Yes.
here on this Saturday, December 1st, a new month and a new race meet here at GP. We've got a lot going on, needless to say, and a happy, as Acacia mentioned, opening day to everybody out there. As far as what's on tap, well, there's a lot to look forward to over the next 6-7 hours here at Gulfstream Park, including today's claiming crown card. 6 turf races, and how about a little Tyler Gaffleone coming back home to South Florida? Really proud of what he was able to accomplish over the fall in Kentucky.
Fresh off the riding title at Churchill Downs, and he also achieved the riding title at Keeneland as well. So a very, very strong fall in Kentucky, coming back to South Florida, his home base here. And as you see as well, 4 claiming crown heroes trying to defend their title, which is really exciting, including Flowers for Lisa and the Jewel, who won, we remember, from that outside post last year. So really exciting to see how those horses will do coming back this year.
You've got to appreciate and really admire the durability and longevity of many of these faces running on today's claiming crown card at Gulfstream Park. Now, all that's great, but what about the money, man? I want to win some dough. Yeah, we're here for the stacks of cash, hopefully, and we do have the multi-race wagers and the kind of guarantees that are befitting of a day like today. Race number 1 kicks off the Super High 5 and that opening pick 5. Acacia will have her ticket momentarily. We have also got 3 key guarantees, beginning with the Rainbow 6 in race 6.
$50,000 guaranteed in the Rainbow 6, and we just keep it rolling. There's a $200,000 guarantee in the late pick 5, which does start in race number 7. And we also have a $200,000 guarantee in the late pick 4, which starts in race 8. So, I mean, big, big money later in the day.
And Mother Nature, clearly
Yes.
a racing fan because, well, the weather just perfect here in South Florida for thoroughbred racing on this Saturday, December 1st. We are indeed fast and firm, and fittingly also, the first race of this new meet will be run on the turf, and you've got the hot seat for the early pick 5.
I do. We're going to get started. We're going to dive right in head first. There are a lot of second-time starters, some horses trying the turf for the first time. A really, really nice maiden special weight to start things off. I really like this race quite a bit for the 2-year-old fillies. So I'm using 4 horses. I have some coverage in here. You've got a couple of trainers with a 1-2 punch as well. Our first claiming crown race does start in race number 2. That is the Rapid Transit. We'll see if Cautious Giant can come back for another claiming crown victory in here, but I'm using 3 horses, going 3 deep in race number 3. Another nice maiden special weight as the 2-year-old Colts and Geldings take center stage on the turf. And then we continue on with stakes action for the rest of the day. My single is going to be Appealing Future in the Express. He's my best bet today. I think he's the one to beat, has that tactical speed, which is really going to be the key. And then using 2 horses in the 5th race, which is the Distaff Dash. Blue Bahia, we'll see if she can repeat again and get that win back-to-back in here. But I'm really intrigued by Oxford Comma coming off of a 2-race win streak on the turf for Tom Amos.
Right, Tom Amos obviously wins a lot of races out in the Midwest, out of town. This will be his first starter here at Gulfstream Park, at least over the last 5 years, and it does look like a potential chalky 2-horse affair between those fillies in the back end of this early pick 5. But let's begin with a field of 12 and the opening race of the meet, and the first of a half a dozen turf races on the grass here, going 7.5 furlongs with a 2-year-old filly maiden special weight. Not only do you have 12 to choose from, including a couple of twofers for some top outfits like Ian Wilkes and Jorge Abreu in Grand Motion. We do want to mention that this race is named for the brave security team that pulled a man from his burning vehicle here on Thanksgiving, and I tweeted out that video, the security camera video, a few moments back, so we're glad to have them a part of the family here at the Stronach Group.
Oh, absolutely, and hats off certainly to everybody involved in that and going above and beyond their jobs as well, and the video really is pretty chilling as well, so certainly fitting to start off the day by recognizing those who do so much.
Now, for me, I'm taking perennial Mr. Gulfstream Park, Todd Fletcher, and Luis Saez, who set a new record in wins here this meet last season with 137 Ws. That is the 5 Avocado. Thinking, of course, being by Noble Mission, who's a full brother to Frankel, that turf ultimately is going to be where it's at for Avocado. In a race that's got a pretty good mix down the middle of horses either trying the turf for the first time or horses that have run on the turf and maybe haven't run all that well but could potentially improve, like your top pick.
Yeah, that certainly could be the case. I mean, Avocado didn't run a step first time out. She was a little bit late switching leads at the end, too. She looked pretty green to me, so I do think that she needs to take a step forward. Noble Mission, as far as his turf progeny, needs to take a step forward, but maybe he's just kind of a later developing sire, which really could be the case with him. I wouldn't be surprised at all. The 2 And She's Gone, I thought really had a lot of upside in that she's going to take a step forward. I mean, turf pedigree, there's absolutely no question about. She's by Warfront out of a multiple stakes place mare who has already produced some really nice horses, including Clearly Now. But this one I thought was at the back, wide late, did have some late run too at Aqueduct on a turf with some give in it. So even though on paper it looks like it's not really that good, I think it was a deceptively okay race, and she's going to move forward. Tyler Gaffleone picking up the mount and has just been, he seems like he rides everywhere and everything and really does his homework too. So we'll see if this one can step forward.
Yeah, she just had no position after that tough break. She is likely to improve. We'll see where that puts her and against a potentially good field of a dozen in today's first race. We begin the Claiming Crown Stakes in race number 2, the Rapid Transit. And to me, this race, quite simply, even though, and we'll get to Cautious Giant in a second, he's the defending winner, the race goes through Uno Mas Modelo for Luch and Anthony Quartarolo. Do you take that big win in the slop at Churchill Downs at face value?
No, I think you have to kind of go a little bit hesitantly when you're looking at that race, because he was more forwardly placed than I had anticipated. That was a Breeders' Cup Thursday, and it looked like going into that race there was going to be a lot of speed. One of the main pace setters didn't send, and Uno Mas Modelo found himself a lot more forwardly placed than we were anticipating. It was very, very wet. It was pouring all day there at Churchill Downs, don't I know it. Huge win from him. That said, the only real blemish on his recent form is when he was trying Grade 1 company in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. So I think that you look at his recent form, he's been so consistent. He doesn't need to send from the inside, though clearly he's shown that he can.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Cautious Giant, I like the layoff of about 3 months, 84 days, and here he is winning the Rapid Transit last December for trainer Victor Barboza Jr. What can you say? I mean, this horse is as game, durable, and honest as the day is long, and I really like him coming into this race with a little bit of a breather here for Victor. I really think think this horse deserved a little time away from the entry box, and I think he shows up today with an A effort.
It might help him mentally, too. And this is actually him winning the Triniberg last time out on September 8th, but he did win the Rapid Transit last year. And what I think is key, that he runs down Harry He, who's the number 7, who set the pace. He just manages to get there. He's stretching back out a little bit to the 7/8. There is also the Express in here, which is 6 furlongs. And I think it's interesting that they opt, after running consistently at 6 furlongs, to put him in the Rapid Transit back at the 7/8, which he did run next year. That extra added little furlong, he had 6 in the money finishes before he got that win last time out. So I need to see him, maybe the freshening with that mental aspect will help him, but I need to see him have a little bit more punch at the end, and be able to not rack up those in the money finishes so much. Maybe that last win helped him turn the corner again.
All right, we dip out of the Claiming Crown Stakes and we move on to the Colts now. We had the gals in the first, 2-year-old Colts Maiden Turfers with another field of 12 in race number 3, a $60,000 maiden special weight that ultimately may turn out to be, at least as far as the betting goes, a battle between the white bridles. You've got the more experienced, but at times, specifically last time out, money-burning Sky Chief for Maker and Gaffleone, and our top selection, who I think is sitting on a big race like you do in Bourbon in May, with a horse who maybe just didn't handle the turf, but still ran pretty well in that race we're about to show at Keeneland.
He did, and as we look at that race, and you're absolutely right. I mean, this was the end of October at Keeneland. We know that turf can get pretty soft over there, and you can even see them kind of kicking up some clods. And actually, this horse went off as the favorite, kind of mid-pack, a lot left to do, while the winner of this race just didn't have as much to make up. But out there on the outside in the white cap, the number 9, white bridle, as Jason mentioned, you see the winner, the one horse, just out in the front very easily. But what I liked about Bourbon in May, he never gave up. He was running late. I thought that was a good building block race for him.
Yeah, I do as well. And it just seemed like he and basically everybody outside of the winner may have not cared for the heavy going back right before Halloween at Keeneland. I'm going to take a fairly logical exacta box with Sky Chief in second, who's kept good company, lost a couple of times to the Chad Brown trained Fog of War over the summer and early fall. I see you've gone a different direction, and you've got a Colt, the Chestnut here by Violence for Carlo in the second spot.
I'm going to try to use a little bit of a price underneath in here. I like Violence on the turf. I think switching to the grass is really going to be key as well. Actually, 4 siblings on the bottom side that won on the turf too. And I remember actually seeing this horse at OBS June. I looked back at his work again where he went 10-3, and that high knee action looked to me like he's going to be a horse physically that's really going to appreciate the turf. Also found it interesting, just as a little stat, Carlo, first time turf with maidens, 8 for 59 for 14%, but 32% of the time in the money and a 276 ROI. So maybe a price to throw in there.
Sounds good. Love the stats. Here's a quick one here with the Pletcher Barn as we wrap things up with the third race analysis and Bourbon in May. Let's hope for a nice drink here. Maybe an adult beverage. I'll take a bottle of water on this Saturday, December 1st. These 2-year-old turf maiden ship-ins here at Gulfstream for Mr. Todd. There you are interviewing him after one of his...
Day.
Yeah, well, there you go with Audible in the big dance last March, but 7 for 18, batting just under 40%. Pretty incredible. Back into Claiming Crown Stakes as we move on to race number 4, and we'll have Claiming Crown events from this point on as we move on to the field in the 6 furlong express, a hard-hitting crew lined up here. I am sticking with the locals. I certainly respect your top pick coming in, the number 2, Appealing Future, and I don't totally disagree that given his body work out of town and figures, race likely goes through him.
I think so. You're right. On numbers, it looks like this is the horse to beat. Won the last 2. The only blemish of the last 4 races was on a sealed sloppy track at Parks, and he was only beaten a neck that day. I thought last time out, a very big performance from him. What I like is that he's going to be tactical. There is some speed to the outside, certainly. Small Fortune has some tactical speed as well. We know Harry he's going to send, and I think Dan, the go-to man, will send from the outside too. So I'm hoping that in this race, Appealing Future just going to sit in the perfect catbird seat, shipping in for trainer John Service, who's 24% on the year. That said, his brother Jason Service seems to dominate Gulfstream much more than John does with the shipper. So we'll see how that plays out this meet as well.
Oh, and you will see, well, 2 very talented turf sprinters from Jason's barn, including an otherworldly stat in just a few moments. I'm going to take the 7 Small Fortune. Really like that horse's race. With Paco riding, and you think his confidence must be to the moon and back. He had such a big meet over in Miami Gardens. And I've liked the few horses Sally Mitchell-Hill has sent out since Jason's regaining or at least training once again. She's done a good job. I'm going to take small fortune in a race that they're going to be motoring towards the front of the pack. Here's the 5th on the afternoon. We move on to the 3-and-up fillies and mares in the Claiming Crown Distaff Dash. 5/8 on the turf, and very much the defending winner of this race, Blue Bahia, versus the Tom Amos Shippen, who's been an absolute beast on the grass.
Yes.
How about a little Blue Bahia here for Jason Service?
All right, well, this one we're going to look back to March, and this one, I think this was a race that we really saw the quality of Blue Bahia. Everybody knew that she was good. This is in the Captiva Island, and she's down on the inside, and this was such a gutsy ride from Paco Lopez, and the only kind of ride you would anticipate from Paco Lopez. Slips up the rail where it looks like there isn't even any space to go. She won the Distaff Dash last year, had a stumble in the ladies' turf sprint on Pegasus Day on January 27th. If you remember that, it looked like she was going to win, took a bad step, or what Paco thought was a bad step late. Turned out she was fine, thankfully. But speaking to Jason Service, he said she's just given some time off, and she let him know she's ready to come back.
Absolutely. And Jason, and this stat will work for Dowses Beach a bit later, who's my late pick 5 single, second half of today's Claiming Crown program. But here is Mr. Jason Service. And these are straight up, very specialized and niche-like 5-furlong turf sprints right here in Howardale. How do you like 55%?
It was just amazing. And I looked at just 5 furlong because, you know, sprints, it does on Formulator count as 5 furlong and 7.5. But right here at Gulfstream going that 5 furlong, it's just amazing how much success he has had.
No doubt. We'll see how that one does against a field that includes Oxford Comma, who, where I sit, I do want to see her transfer and translate that form locally. Not as easy as it might sound, or at least look on paper. So I'm going to try to split her in the exacta with the 5 Ladies Island. But again, make no mistake, she could be a real nice horse for Tom Amos.
She really seems to have taken to the grass quite well. Her last couple of races have been very impressive. But I agree with you. This is really going to be a big class test today, especially with the likes of Blue Bahia in there.
All right, you want class? How does 3 guarantees sound? More on that. Rainbow 6 after this.
Whether you're at home or at the track, have a stake in the race when you bet with ExpressBet. Sign up for an ExpressBet online betting account and receive up to a $500 sign-up bonus.
Well, the optimism and excitement are where they should be for an opening day for a meet like this. And as you could tell from that commercial, I mean, we don't let the foot or our foot off the gas pedal because Classico is just a week out as we have the second year of the Classico here in South Florida.
And I think all of us are on the same page that it was probably one of the most fun days of racing that I've been involved in. Just the pride for each of the countries, the excitement that the jockeys have too with all the big races that they've ridden in, with the likes of Irad Ortiz and John Velasquez winning the Classico races, how much it means to be part of those.
All right, Rainbow 6 time here. Day number 1, we're seeding the pool with a guarantee of 50 Gs, which is pretty nice. And what are we doing here in the Rainbow 6?
All right, stepped it up a little bit for opening day, $57.60, but $50,000 guaranteed. There is nothing wrong with that. I'm using 4 horses to start things off in the Iron Horse, probably the most aptly named Claiming Crown race, if you will, especially for the likes of the horses that we see in here. Jason and I were just talking in the commercial. What do you do with 2 Cuban brothers you who's trying to defend his title? Could be the speed of the speed, but seems like the wheels have fallen off a little bit lately. I think it's a 2-horse race in the 7th. It goes between the 1 Peru. Certainly Mike Maker and Ken and Sarah Ramsey have really done very well in Claiming Crown. And then the very classy Starship Jubilee to the outside. 8th race is the Glass Slipper. I'm going 3 deep in there. Will Starship Reina control? How will that all play out? I think this is a really wide open race in the 8th. That's going to be a tricky one. The Canterbury is race 9. I'm using just 2 there. Dowses Beach certainly certainly going to be the one to beat, will be the main speed. But I'm looking at a price at Oak Bluffs. I'm wondering what we're going to get out of that horse for trainer Mary Epler, who had a very good winter down in Florida last year. 3 deep in the Emerald. I like Aquaphobia quite a bit. You've also got Driven by Thunder and another good turf runner for Jason Service in Montclair. And then we wrap things up with the Claiming Crown Jewel. I'm just using the 2 Navarro horses in Aztec Sense and Flowers for Lisa. But if I spread more, I would use the 5 Race Me Home. If I could spit it out. Racing home already. 57.60 for me.
Sounds good. And a tricky, at least on paper in my eyes, with Navarro, who, by the way, has 16 horses entered throughout these 9 Claiming Crown stakes. He's got Aztec Sense and Flowers for Lisa. They both like to mix it up towards the front of the pack, so we'll see. I'm going to talk to him before in the paddock and see what his take is, potentially, or at least avoiding a potential duel between those two.
Well, actually, I was wondering about that too. So I asked him that the other day, and first I said, all right, well, let's get started. You have 1 million horses on Saturday. And he said, no, I have a zillion running. So, but he said the plan was to let Flowers for Lisa go and have Aztec Sense sit just off of it. So we'll see how it happens.
Absolutely. Now, sending and going early is the game of 2 Cuban brothers U, who's the defending winner of the Claiming Crown Iron Horse following Cautious Giant and Blue Bahia in the earlier stakes. Question is, with him, even with that early speed, it does not seem like he is the same horse that he was a year ago coming into the Iron Horse.
Last year, he came in off of a 3-length victory at Laurel and some really strong performances before that. This year, he's coming off of a string of 4 defeats. He's been freshened up since the end of September. He is 2 for 4 with a second here at Gulfstream, so we know he likes this track. He's got Luis Saez up, but in order to put him on top, I just would have liked to see him coming in a little bit stronger. On numbers, he still fits, but we'll see if we get the same horse that we did last year.
Yeah, I am siding. We have obviously the same top selection in the 5 Tadare, who's been good here at GP. He can go 2 turns, and he's a quality, classy type runner who's a good fit with this crew. I think the 2 Kanani was better than ever for Tammy Levy throughout the summer into the early fall. I think he's dangerous, along with the 10 Cheech Thunder, who may not stack up in the ability department with some of the top-tiered horses in the Iron Horse. He ran exceptionally well against the Gold Rail and a very speedy track on Sunday, November 4th. Those are the 3 locals I'm going to fool around with.
And I really wanted to use Cheech Thunder, too, because he is the epitome of an Iron Horse, this 5-year-old gelding. He runs pretty much no matter what and no matter where he is. Now, second time out for Peter Walder. I like the 12 Moongate Warrior a little bit. I know he's been running against short fields at Parks, but when Louis Linder's ships, take a look. He had a really nice horse named Order-in-Law come in at Laurel Park to win the Futurity there, and went off at a big price. If you can get this horse at a price, he's been very short prices, he could be one sitting a nice trip.
All right, sounds good. Let's move on to that $200,000 guaranteed late pick 5, race number 7. It's all Claiming Crown stakes, and we start things off in this late pick 5 with the big 2 who were second and third. It's amazing, by the way, just how classy a trifecta you got in the 2017 running of the Tiara, where Peru and Starship Jubilee were second and third behind Martini Glass, who would go on to do some pretty good things in graded company. Well, Martini Glass, I think, retired and sold last fall, but you've got Peru and Starship Jubilee back for another round. The difference today, though, it's such a huge swing in post positions, and that ultimately, I'm using both, of course, but gave the edge and will give the edge to Peru because she's on the rail for trainer Mike Maker. I am 2 deep in race number 8, where to me the biggest subplot is the trifecta from Jorge Navarro against a quality rival in Bella Vincenza, who's solid and very well posted. Gonna just put it all in here, all the chips on the table with the 9 Douses Beach as my single. We thought right after the Breeders' Cup we might get World of Trouble. Wheeling back off that gritty effort and fast race in the turf sprint. But obviously, he's not in the race, but boy, is there a deep bench in that barn in the turf sprinting department. I am 4 deep in the 10th. I still think that race, to be fair, though, centers around Aquaphobia, who's going to need to get a trip, and he's going to need to show up with a good effort because it's a contentious field, but he's the horse to beat. And I'm 3 deep, including both Navarro runners in the finale, the Jewel, and Race Me Home is the one that may, if things get a little dicey with those Navarro runners freewheeling towards the front, Race Me Home, I think, the best closer.
It certainly could be for trainer Mike Mike Maker and another barn that holds a strong hand, not just in this pick 5 sequence, but throughout. As I mentioned earlier, Maker and Ken and Sarah Ramsey, such a good record in the Claiming Crown, too.
Yeah, Mike Maker's got 16 wins. The Ramseys have 15. And in the case of Starship Jubilee, we welcome back our buddy Kevin Attard, who's done an amazing job off the claim with this near $600,000 mare by Indy Win, who obviously has kept some outrageous company and done some really good things way north of us.
She really seems to have turned into martini glass, if you will. We're going to look at her race 2 starts back up at Woodbine. This was on September 15th. It was in the Grade 2 Canadian. She's now a multiple graded stakes winner. She comes from off the pace this day and runs down Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf winner New Money Honey. It's not like she was running against bad company in here at all. She's right there in the blue cap, going from off the pace again to get the win here in Graded Stakes Company. This is what I like, especially with this outside post. She showed that she can come from off the pace. She doesn't necessarily need to be on or close to the lead. She's a 7-time winner here at Gulfstream. A little bit of a homecoming for her, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. It's good to have her back in South Florida. Best of luck to the number 12 class all the way in Starship Jubilee. Let's be fair, though. She's got a real rival who drew the far better advantageous post in Peru, who's done some good things against opens, too.
She really has. Now, she took a right turn at the break last time out, which I certainly didn't like, but it was yielding turf at Keeneland. She kind of lost her footing and had a hard time recovering after that. Still made up some ground late, which I thought it was a big performance, even though she was beaten at 6-5. She's been ultra consistent. They've been running her longer than a mile and a 16th, but clearly we know that's no problem for her.
All right, let's move on to the 8th there, the big 2 in race number 7, the Tiara, as we get on to Jorge Navarro and company in race number 8. Now, I think the biggest number in an individual race for that barn is 5 today for Navarro, but 3 is not bad, and that 3 includes the number 3, Starship Reina, who with her speed and her body of work out of town, I feel as though, and it might be narrow, but she is the starting point to this upcoming glass slipper.
She could be the controlling pace for sure. She tried Stakes Company last time out going the 7/8, and she showed some speed. She had a tough start to the race. She had some company up there as well, so maybe it's not the best race to go off of. I think her 6 furlong races are much more potent. Can she carry that speed going the 1-turn mile?
Yeah, she'll be the speed here and likely loose over perhaps the number 5 horse, Southern Perfection, and your top pick, in fact, Viva Forever, sandwiched right between them.
That's right. I'm going to try to get a price in here. I do think it's a little bit more wide open. Here's another one. I guess I'm hoping Louis Linder has a big day in here, but I like the price that you're going to get on this horse coming off of a couple big wins. Again, it's going to be a class test today, but has, I think, the tactical ability.
All right, Bella Vincenzo, one of the locals, body of work here at GP. GPW, very solid for Kathleen O'Connell. Got to like the post there in a race that Starship Rainer, if she can't go the distance, I mean, it's going to bring everybody together.
It could be a run right down to the wire. It could be a very exciting finish.
Yeah, we might predict a 3 or 4 horse photo at this point for the glass slipper at a mile on the main. To the turf we go for race number 9. It's the Canterbury. We're at 5 furlongs, and we already talked about Jason Service's Blue Bahia as the defending winner of her respective division a few races back. Well, how about Dowse's Beach, who, I mean, the renaissance he has enjoyed in those 3 races for the barn off the claim, it's unbelievable.
It really is unbelievable. His last couple of races have just been otherworldly, and that stat that we showed earlier on Blue Bahia for trainer Jason Service with those 5 furlong turf sprints here, you know that this is the ultimate name of his game for sure. Paco Lopez picking up the mount. This one has a lot of speed. There is some other speed in here. I think Dowse's Beach could potentially be the speed of the speed and just run away from the rest of the field. Jason saying it was just a very good claim, and he doesn't have to worry about World of Trouble today, as you mentioned. I'm looking to shake this race up. Oak Bluffs, last time out, you have to put an complete line through the Laurel Dash. The race, the turf that day was very speed favoring. Horses were not able to make up ground. It was very, very soft that afternoon as well. It had a lot of rain. Class and Cash, who's just an ultimate classy horse, was really a much more forwardly placed that day. Maybe the wheels fell off a little bit for this horse, but I think that this 8-year-old gelding is shipped with intent, been freshened up since that race, and could be one to be running late.
Yeah, coming back for that 2nd consecutive Canterbury, beaten by Penny Price, who we wish the best of luck to this afternoon.
Yeah.
He's running fairly early in today's card up at Tampa Bay Downs with Edgar Zayas, who will, I'll stand in for Edgar when they announce the leading rider celebration, or at least presentation
Jason
for
wears many
Gulfstream
hats
West.
here at Gulfstream.
I'm happy to do it for my buddy Edgar, but best of luck to Panning
Recently
Price.
engaged, too.
Yes, got engaged, and things going well for Edgar, and they're going well for us here as we move on to the late double. Final turf race on the card, big field. That's kind of getting redundant, but it is the case here as we move on to the Buck 25 in the Claiming Crown Emerald. And like I said, we both picked them. Aquaphobia, can't make any mistakes, needs a good trip, and it might be, again, a very narrow decision, but he deserves to at least lead the conversation because he's been so good out of town.
He really has been, and comes out of Graded Stakes Company. Rob Falcone told me he actually bled after the Knickerbocker last time, so he had a legitimate excuse. He'd never done that before. They gave him a little bit of time. He actually shipped in 3 weeks prior to the championship meet starting to get acclimated to South Florida. Has good energy, they said, but you're right. He needs a trip, and that's kind of been the name of his game. Even in that nice allowance race behind Ticonderoga at Saratoga, maybe not the easiest of trips deceptively too, but I think he's a talented horse, and if he gets that trip, could be very tough in here.
And Montclair, the Irish bred, the 5 driven by Thunder, Reclaim for Pletcher, make a lot of sense as well. Again, Aquaphobia, his race to lose, but he can
get some tough ones to deal with.
He's going to need an A-type effort here this afternoon for Rob Falcone. Let's move on to race number 11 and the Jewel. Fittingly, the nightcap here in race number 11 of 11. As we had 12 entered, we had a couple of big-priced defections. That leaves us with a field of 10 as we bust out the mile and a furlong starting gate here on the main track. And Jorge Navarro sitting pretty, at least on paper, between Aztec Sense and the defending winner Flowers for Lisa, who, boy, what a ride Paco gave this horse from a brutal post last year in this race.
Oh, absolutely. As we backtrack, we're going to show you the start here. And I remember standing next to Rich McGleary at the time. He said he rode him like a quarter horse that day. Just blast out of the gate. Managed to clear on the outside in the pink silks. Really hard ridden. And somehow manages to get over. And then even when getting some company and being headed a bit by Diamond Bachelor down on the inside and Flashy Jewel to his outside, I thought a super game performance from him. He's another one. He's not coming in maybe as well as you would have liked on paper. That said, he was 4th in the Lucas Classics behind Mind Your Biscuits and Toast of New York last time out. So I think he's been keeping fine company.
Indeed he has. You're going to take him to win back-to-back jewels for Navarro. Aztec Sense. It's pretty, as we mentioned this horse quickly, it's remarkable to me that this horse was claimed in August of 17 for $12,500 with what he's been able to accomplish as a 5-year-old this season.
Won his last 7 races, and all of them by open lengths.
Amazing.
There hasn't been a nail-biter amongst them. And he's 2 for 3 here at Gulfstream. He's been super impressive. He's got speed. We'll see if he does sit just off and how that pace scenario plays out.
And the pace, ultimately, the biggest subplot in this upcoming nightcap this afternoon. And if things, again, get a little searing towards the front, the 5 Race Me Home should be in a good spot. Mike Maker, maybe no surprise, given his success in this event in the past. Excellent numbers, was second off the claim types who won their last start. Very nice broad statistic there, and batting over 30% with 16 wins from 52 starters. And although he's coming in off a win, this Irish-bred Race Me Home, from where I sit, I'd give him a couple of extra check marks because he overcame a very strong inside track that day after the Breeders' Cup on Sunday, November 4th. That track was about as speedy as it was throughout the 40 days over in Miami Gardens.
It was a nice performance from him. I thought he was really tenacious to get the win that day coming from off the pace. And you're right, if there's any sort of pace stool here, he'll be picking up the pieces late, and you know Tyler's done his homework.
Sounds good. 4-month meet, day number 1. So good to have you with us, everybody. Best of luck. Pete Aiello, when you thought your opening day couldn't get any better, it will. He's coming up with those scratches and changes, and we'll join you along with Ron Nicoletti just before the first.
One of the world's most anticipated thoroughbred racing events of the year returns. The 3rd annual Pegasus World Cup Invitational at Gulfstream Park in South Florida. Drawing competition from around the world with a $16 million purse split between 2 Grade 1 races. On the dirt and on the turf. Experience the incredible fashion, spectacular world-class service and entertainment, unrivaled adrenaline of the Pegasus World Cup Invitational. Saturday, January 26th at Gulfstream Park. Get your tickets now at PegasusWorldCup.com.